Let's talk about the white balance. The white balance is the most crucial setting in your camera that influences the colors that you get. The goal is to set it right so that the whites in your picture look white and don't have a color shift, or use it to create a particular colored look. All different light sources are measured in Kelvin units called color temperature. The white balance is the setting that allows you to balance or offset your colors in camera. Not in every case you want that your whites look white. Let me explain. Light sources at the lower end reach from warm around 1000K to the higher end, which appears as cold and can reach up to 10,000K, like a cloudy sky or the end of the blue hour. As you see in the picture, when you set your white balance in camera to the same number as the light source has, makes your light source appear white. Also, when in reality this light source doesn't look white. So the camera must also be calibrated or adjusted for the specific light source. It also uses the Kelvin scale, but can be confusing or counterintuitive if you never heard that before. Setting the temperature in camera to the lower end cools down the image. When you put the color temperature to the higher end, it warms up the image, which is the opposite of what we know about the Kelvin scale when relating to our light sources. You get the idea. If you have a light source with 3200K and your camera is set to a higher Kelvin like 5600K, the light with the lower Kelvin appears way more orange. And if you have a daylight at 5600K and the Kelvin in camera is also set to a higher temperature like 7000K, this bluish light looks warmer. And as soon as we put the white balance in camera to the value of the light source itself, both images look exactly the same. Most of the cameras have the function of auto white balance. I recommend you to set it always manually. The auto white balance tries to set that your whites look white, as in the example before, also when you don't want it. For instance, in case of a sunset that isn't what you wish to do, it removes the orange cast that you see with your own eyes. And if you have a longer shot, your camera might change the white balance during this shot, and you have to try to fix that in post. That means a lot of additional work. In the beginning, you can use the presets that most of the cameras have, like sunny, overcast, fluorescent and many more. So you will learn faster when choosing which Kelvin temperature. But the better way is to set it manual from the beginning on, so you will know it more quickly. Try to set it so that you see the same on the camera screen as your eyes see. You will get into cases where you get mixed light scenarios with daylight and tungsten light, especially with real estate projects. That's often the case. So look out for something white, like a wall, and dial it in until you see on the screen the same as what you see with your eyes, so that the white walls look as white as possible. Mostly you will land around 4500 to 4700K. This way the warm light bulbs stay with an orange cast and the daylight looks slightly more bluish. Important to understand here is setting the color temperature is not color correction or color grading. That is another topic that we'll look at in another video. The white balance can create creative looks or emulate different times of the day. When your camera is set to 5600K, which is daylight, and the sun goes down, every light source lower than 5600K will appear with a warmer orange cast, in this case the sun. Every light source higher than 5600K will appear more bluish. You can also simulate moonlight with 5600K lights and additional practicals with the temperature around 3200K. You can set the white balance in camera at around 4500K, so everything lower appears warmer and everything higher looks cooler, like moonlight. You can also emulate the nighttime at daytime by changing the camera's white balance to a lower value than the sunlight, so that everything has a bluish cast. Then bring the exposure down. This works the best on not very cloudy days, because the moonlight is also a hard light source that creates clear and hard shadows. On a cloudy day you have very diffused light which creates soft shadows, not the best case to imitate the moonlight. But more about this topic you will learn in the chapter on lighting. There are a ton of possibilities to use your white balance to create your own look. If you use daylight from the window and set the white balance from the camera also to daylight, but you light your subject with a tungsten light, that doesn't look correct. These two colors conflict because you don't see where the orange light comes from. Only when you see a practical in the shot this will look correct. But if you don't use a practical, you have no way to set the proper white balance in camera. But if you change the tungsten light with the daylight balanced light source, the window and the color from the light source will match. Whatever white balance we choose now can be used creatively to change the scene's look from warm to cold, without any strange looking or conflicting colors. That is especially helpful if you have only one type of light source to create different looks. But with the practical in the shot with another or the same temperature, you have different options to set your white balance. You can balance for the window, so the practical is orange, or you balance for the practical, but then the window gets very blue. But if your practical is also daylight balanced, you can make the whole shot warmer or cooler, whatever matches your taste or the story the best. So the internal white balance of the camera can help you if you are limited with the choice of light sources. If you have only 5600K balanced lights but want a warmer look, so simply change the white balance from the camera to 6000K or higher. That gives you a warmer light. But remember, be aware of mixed light sources that can give you some unwanted looks, especially when you don't see it as practical in the shot. You can change the white balance not only in camera, there are also more ways. That brings me to the color depth of your camera. With photos, you can change the white balance without problems in post, because you got a raw image. In video, you got only something similar like a JPEG file. Bit depth is the amount of color data captured in your image. As you see, 8-bit footage falls very fast apart, and you can't get significant changes to the white balance if you set it not correctly. Luckily, more and more cameras can shoot 10-bit footage, in which you have more information to play with, but still not a RAW file. RAW files in video have from 12 up to 16-bit details in them. In this case, the white balance isn't a significant problem at all. You can fix everything in post. But as long as you have a camera with the lower bit depth, you have to set your white balance as close as possible to get the best image, because you can't make huge changes in the post-production. But more about the color depth you will learn in another video. The temperature of the light source themselves can also be changed with gels. There are some different types and strengths of it, like CTB, CTO and more. When you use gels, be aware that this will also slightly reduce the output of your light source. And some light sources have the ability to change the color temperature directly on the light, which is also a very simple and efficient way to change the white balance. So to clarify the white balance topic even better is to understand which light or setting turns the image bluish or more orange. You will understand this the best by looking at following graph. It is very simple. If we take any light source, in this example the sun, and if we set the white balance to a lower value than the light source itself, the light becomes cooler. And if we set the white balance to a higher value than the light source, the image becomes warmer. With the gray or white card, you can also set your white balance in camera by measuring the card when all lights are turned on. This way you can also ensure that when you use different cameras, all will match better together as best as possible. There is one more axis to the white balance that we don't talk about. As you see on the color wheel, warm to cold is the most noticeable axis, but you can also set the tint from green to magenta. Some light sources like fluorescent tubes have a green tint in them, or cheap LED lights have a magenta cast. To fix that, add more green or magenta to your image, or with gels directly in front of the light source. It is the same when you use an ND filter that has a color cast. You can fix that also by adjusting the tint in camera or in the post. That brings me to another very nice trick. If you use an external monitor and have some LUTs, also called lookup tables in it, while you shoot in a log profile, you can turn this LUT on, so you don't get this flat picture. And when you love this specific LUT, but you don't like a particular color in it, you can also reduce it manually by adjusting the tint in camera, so you see directly how it's affecting your final picture. Do not forget to set your shift back after you're finished. Now I will tell you the last trick, how I film sunset. As soon as the sun goes down, the camera is set to 5600K. The sunset appears warmer and warmer. As soon as the sun is gone, around twilight or the beginning of the blue hour, the picture will get very blue. So you have to adjust your white balance to 8000 up to 10,000K, which will reduce the blue cast. Now you are able to set your white balance in every possible way and get your own creative looks. It isn't that complicated. If this video helped you to understand the white balance, let a like here and subscribe. And now let's create. And wait, don't use this auto white balance anymore.